The council chamber was almost empty. Min stood at the speaker's platform and looked at the rows of seats where delegates from 1,000 worlds used to sit. Now only a few hundred remained. The rest had already stopped coming to meetings. They knew nothing would change. Min adjusted his suit and began to speak. His voice was calm but firm. He had practiced these words for weeks, but now that the moment had arrived, they felt heavy on his tongue. 200 years ago, humanity joined the Galactic Council with hope in our hearts. We believed in cooperation between species. We believed in justice. We believed that together we could make the galaxy a better place. He paused and looked around the chamber. We were wrong. Some of the alien delegates shifted in their seats. Others stared at him with unreadable expressions. High Chancellor of the leaned forward, his large eyes narrowing. Min continued. 3 months ago, a colony on the edge of Council space sent a distress signal. Pirates were attacking. 15,000 beings were crying for help. Commander Wu of the Human Defense Fleet was close enough to reach them in hours. He asked permission to help. The Council said no. The proper authorization would take 3 days. The chamber was silent. Everyone knew this story. It had been in all the news feeds. Commander Wu waited. He followed orders. He listened to the distress calls getting weaker and weaker. When permission finally came, he arrived to find bodies floating in space. 15,000 beings dead because the Council needed 3 days to fill out forms. Trade Coordinator Milzok stood up. Ambassador Min, you know the procedures exist for good reasons. We cannot have ships acting without proper authority. Min looked at him. 15,000 beings might disagree with you, but they are dead now, so we cannot ask them. Milzok sat down, his face colors changing in what Min recognized as embarrassment. This was not the first time, Min said. It was just the last time. For decades, humanity has watched the Council debate while people suffered. The Empire takes slaves from frontier worlds. The Council forms a committee to study the issue. The Syndicate steals ships and cargo. The Council suggests we try mediation. Every crisis meets the same response. Meetings, discussions, reports. And while the Council talks, people die. High Chancellor stood now. He was tall, even for and his voice carried authority. Ambassador Min, the Council represents 1,000 species. We must consider all viewpoints. Quick action leads to mistakes. And slow action leads to death, Min replied. Chancellor, your species has not fought a war in 500 years. You have forgotten what it means when minutes matter. The Council was built for a peaceful galaxy. That galaxy does not exist anymore. Military Overseer slammed his massive fist on his desk. The sound echoed through the chamber. Are you saying the Council military cannot protect its members? I am saying the Council military has never been tested, Min said. Your forces look impressive in parades, but they operate on 100 different command systems. Your officers spend more time in meetings than in training. When was the last time the Council fleet actually fought anyone? Had no answer. Min took a deep breath. Humanity did not make this decision lightly. We debated for months. We tried to reform the Council from within, but every proposal for change was blocked. Every suggestion for improvement was sent to a committee that never reported back. The Council is broken, and it cannot be fixed. He pulled out a data pad and held it up. This is humanity's formal withdrawal from the Galactic Council. Effective immediately, all human personnel will leave Council facilities. All human ships will depart Council space. All human representatives will return home. We are done. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages. Some called Min a traitor. Others begged him to reconsider. Was yelling something about economic sanctions. Milzok warned of trade consequences. Threatened military action. Min gathered his papers and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the entire human delegation stood and followed. 27 humans walking out of the Council chamber for the last time. The aliens kept shouting, But the humans did not look back. Outside in the corridor, Min stopped. The others gathered around him. Young Diplomat 1 looked shaken. "Sir, what happens now?" "Now we go home," Min said, "and we let the council figure out what it wants to be." The withdrawal happened quickly. Within days, human research scientist 1 packed up her laboratory on the council science station. She had spent 5 years there, working on quantum communication with scientists from 30 different species. She had made friends. She had enjoyed the work, but she understood why they were leaving. Her colleague, unnamed, helped her pack. "I wish you would stay," he said quietly. "I wish the council would change," 1 replied, "but wishes are not enough." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Diplomat Young closed the human embassy on Centrum Prime, the council. He handed the building keys to an official who looked confused and lost. Freight Captain Min ordered her convoy of cargo ships to leave council trade routes. Military observer Bora shut down her monitoring station and deleted all the shared access codes. The humans left, and suddenly the council realized how much they had relied on them. The quantum communication project stopped because 70% of the lead researchers were human. The medical research division struggled because human doctors had been running most of the actual experiments. The trade network slowed to a crawl because human ships had been moving 40% of all cargo. Infrastructure maintenance fell behind because human engineers had been fixing things faster than anyone else. Within weeks, the council began to feel the absence. Systems that had run smoothly for decades started breaking down. Projects that seemed on track suddenly stalled. The bureaucracy got even slower because the humans who had cut through red tape were gone. High Chancellor called emergency meetings. He formed new committees. He issued orders, but nothing worked the way it used to. The council had not realized they were standing on human shoulders until those shoulders were gone. And in the dark between stars, predators began to notice the weakness. 3 months passed since humanity left the council. The galaxy was changing, and not in good ways. Captain Min stood on the bridge of her ship, the Defiant Dawn, watching her display screens. Her vessel was one of many human ships that now patrolled the border between human space and council territory. They were not looking for trouble. They were just watching. "Captain, I'm picking up another distress signal," said Hay-1 from the tactical station. She was young but sharp, one of the best analysts Min had ever worked with. "It's coming from the Dorian system. Looks like they are raiding again." Min felt her jaw tighten. The Empire had been testing council defenses for months now. Every test showed the same thing. The council could not protect its own people. "Can we reach them in time?" Min asked. "Yes, ma'am, we're close, maybe 2 hours. "But our orders say we stay neutral," added Wu from communications. He did not like the orders any more than anyone else, but orders were orders. Min stared at the screen showing the distress signal. Somewhere in that system, people were dying. The old Min, the one who served in the council fleet, would have jumped into action immediately. But she was not in the council fleet anymore. She was in the human independent forces, and they had clear instructions. "Stay out of council problems." "Monitor only," she said finally. "Record everything. Send the data to intelligence." She hated every word. They were not the only ones causing problems. The Syndicate, a loose group of pirates and criminals, had grown bold. They attacked merchant ships openly now. They raided stations. They took hostages. The council kept issuing warnings and threats, but everyone knew the warnings meant nothing. On the council, Trade Coordinator Milzox stared at the reports piling up on his desk. The galactic economy was in serious trouble. Human shipping companies had pulled out of council space completely. They were not angry. They were not trying to punish anyone. They simply did not want to risk their ships in an area where pirates operated freely and no protection existed. The result was chaos. Raw materials sat in warehouses because no one could move them. Colonies ran out of food and medicine because supply ships stopped coming. Prices for basic goods doubled, then tripled. Milzox had spent his entire career managing galactic trade. He had always believed the system was stable. Now he watched it collapse in slow motion. He tried negotiating with human freight companies. He offered them premium rates, guaranteed security, anything they wanted. The response was always the same. They would return to Council space when Council space was safe. Not before. Milzox wondered if he should have supported Min when he had the chance. Meanwhile, on the human colony world of Nu, Administrator Sung dealt with a different problem. Refugees. Thousands of them arrived every day. They came from Council space, fleeing the violence and chaos. Most were not human. They were dozens of different species. They came because human space was safe and organized. Sung set up processing centers and temporary housing. She organized food distribution and medical care. It was difficult work, and human resources were not unlimited, but she remembered something her grandmother had told her. Helping others when it is easy means nothing. Helping others when it is hard, that shows character. So she helped, and every day more refugees arrived. In the Council Research District, Project Director Ara of the Quantum Nexus Initiative stared at her empty laboratory. 6 months ago, this place had been full of scientists working on breakthrough technology. They were so close to solving faster-than-light communication. The work could have changed everything. Then the humans left, and Ara discovered that 70% of her research team had been human. The remaining scientists tried to continue the work, but they were missing critical knowledge. The humans had taken their research with them, as was their right. The project was dead. Ara had always been proud. She had looked down on humans as a young species with too much confidence. Now she realized the truth. The humans had been the ones doing most of the actual work while species like hers took the credit. She felt ashamed. Not everyone at the council had learned this lesson. High Chancellor refused to admit any mistakes. In a public speech, he declared that the council was stronger than ever. The humans had been useful, he said, but not essential. The council would prove they could manage without humanity's help. He announced a grand military campaign that would lead a coalition fleet against the Empire. They would crush the raiders and restore order. The galaxy would see that the council still had power. Military Overseer had resigned in disgust months earlier, but ignored his warnings. He appointed Admiral N, an officer with an impressive academy record, to command the fleet. Ships from 40 different council species gathered at the rally point. It was the largest fleet assembled in centuries. Bora watched the fleet assembly from her monitoring post on New Sol. She was no longer a council observer. She worked for human intelligence now. Her job was to track what happened in council space and report back. What she saw worried her deeply. "They have no idea what they're doing," she told her supervisor. "The fleet is huge, but it's a mess. Every species uses different command systems. Their weapons are not compatible. Their tactical doctrines contradict each other. Half the commanders have never seen real combat." "Will they win?" her supervisor asked. Bora looked at the data again. She ran simulations. She checked every number twice. "No," she said finally. "They're going to get slaughtered." "Should we warn them?" "We already did. They ignored us." The supervisor nodded slowly. "Then all we can do is watch." Back on human capital New Earth, the parliament debated what to do. Prime Minister Dong listened to representatives argue for hours. Some wanted to help the council despite everything. Others wanted to stay completely neutral. A few even suggested they should be happy watching the council fail. Representative Mi Sun stood up. "We cannot just watch thousands of people die when we could help them." Representative immediately disagreed. "Why should we? They dismissed us for years. They called us arrogant. They said we were warmongers when we tried to protect people. Now they want our help. Let them face the consequences of their choices." The argument went back and forth. Dong understood both sides. He had been angry too when the Council rejected humanity's concerns, but he also knew that innocent people would die in the coming battle, people who had nothing to do with Council politics. Foreign Minister proposed a compromise. We offer them tactical advice and intelligence, nothing more. If they accept and agree to real reforms, maybe we work together in the future. If they refuse, we tried. The Parliament voted. The proposal passed by a small margin. Dong sent Min back to the Council one more time. Min stood in the Council chamber again. It looked different now. Many seats were empty. The ones who remained looked tired and scared. He delivered humanity's offer simply and clearly. We will help you. We will provide tactical information and strategic advice. In return, you must acknowledge your mistakes and agree to meaningful reforms. High Chancellor stood up. His voice was loud and angry. The Council does not need human charity. We will prove our strength without your interference. Take your offer and leave. Other Council members looked uncomfortable. Some whispered among themselves, but was still Chancellor and his word carried weight. The offer was rejected. Min nodded. He had expected this. Pride was a powerful thing. Very well, good luck in your campaign. He walked out. This time he knew he would not be coming back. Captain Min received her new orders. Shadow the Council fleet. Observe everything. Record it all. Do not intervene under any circumstances. She acknowledged the orders and set course. Her crew was silent. They all knew what was coming. The Council fleet departed for space. Admiral broadcast confident messages about their inevitable victory. The ships moved in a massive formation that looked impressive but made no tactical sense. They were waiting. The Council fleet entered the home system like a parade. 800 warships in loose formation, broadcasting their approach openly. Admiral N stood on the bridge of his flagship and felt pride swell in his chest. This was the moment that would restore the Council's reputation. This was the moment that would prove they did not need humanity. Open a channel to the, he ordered. The communication officer, N's image was now being broadcast across Prime. This is Admiral N of the Galactic Council fleet. You have violated Council law. You have attacked member worlds. You have taken slaves. Surrender now or face destruction. The response was silence, and waited, still nothing. Sir, I'm not detecting any ships, the sensor officer reported. Long-range scans show maybe 200 vessels near the planet, but that's all. And smiled. They outnumbered the enemy 4-1. This would be easier than expected. All ships advanced to attack formation. The fleet moved forward, and did not notice that his attack formation was actually 40 different formations, because 40 different species interpreted his order in 40 different ways. Ships bunched together in some areas. In other areas, huge gaps appeared. The formation looked like chaos from above, but N could only see his own tactical display. On the defiant dawn, several light-years away, Min watched with growing horror. They're not maintaining proper spacing. Their flanks are exposed. They're not scanning the asteroid fields. Haewon ran calculations on her tactical computer. Captain, if I was the commander, I would have hidden ships in those asteroid fields using sensor masking technology. That's exactly what I would do too, Min said quietly. Wu, are we recording everything? Yes, ma'am. Every sensor is active. Min gripped her command chair. She wanted to warn them. She wanted to do something, but her orders were clear. Watch only. The Council fleet reached the midpoint of the system. That's when they sprang their trap. 300 additional warships appeared from the asteroid fields, exactly where Haewon predicted. They came from multiple directions, surrounding the Council fleet. And stared at his display in shock. Where did they come from? How did we miss them? His sensor officer had no good answer. The truth was simple. Human intelligence had warned about sensor masking technology months ago, but the Council had ignored the warning because it came from humans. All ships turned to engage the new contacts and ordered. But the Council fleet could not turn as one. Every species had different engine capabilities. Some ships were fast and maneuverable. Others were slow and heavy. The fleet began to break apart as faster ships rushed ahead while slower ones fell behind. They did not break apart. They moved with precise coordination. They had been fighting wars for centuries while the Council held meetings. They knew what they were doing. The first attack wave hit the Council fleet like a hammer. Dozens of Council ships disappeared in explosions. They targeted the slowest ships first, the ones that had fallen behind. They destroyed or disabled them quickly, then moved to the next targets. Admiral and tried to coordinate a response, but his communication systems were overwhelmed. 40 species all trying to use different comm frequencies. Some species could not understand others. Translation software lagged during the stress of combat. Orders got confused. Ships received contradictory instructions. A cruiser tried to retreat, colliding with a destroyer that was trying to advance. Both ships were damaged. The focused fire on them, destroying them both. On the Defiant Dawn, Engineer So Young monitored the power signatures from the battle. Their ships are running out of energy already. They're wasting power on inefficient maneuvers. They are hurting them like animals. It was true. The commanders were experienced. They used the Council fleet's disorganization against them. They separated Council ships from their support vessels. They cut off supply lines. They created chaos and confusion. Min watched a battleship try to protect 3 smaller vessels. The battleship was brave but alone. 6 warships surrounded it. The battleship's shields held for a while, but eventually they failed. Min saw the explosion. She saw the smaller ships desperately calling for help that would not come. "Captain, I can't watch this anymore," Wu said. His voice was shaking. "We could help them, we're right here." "Our orders." "I know our orders," Wu's voice rose. "But people are dying, thousands of them." Min wanted to scream. She wanted to charge into the battle. She wanted to do something other than watch helpless beings die. But she was a military officer. She followed orders even when those orders felt like daggers in her heart. "We record," she said through gritted teeth. "That's all we can do." The battle lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of slaughter. The Council fleet tried to fight back. Individual ships showed courage and determination. Some captains performed brilliant tactical maneuvers, but individual excellence could not overcome collective chaos. Admiral N's flagship took heavy damage. He ordered a retreat, but half the fleet did not receive the order. Others received it but could not disengage from combat. Some ships ran. Some ships stayed and fought. There was no coordination, no plan, no leadership. They destroyed over 400 Council ships. They captured another 200. Less than 200 Council vessels escaped the system, most of them damaged. The casualties exceeded 500,000 beings. It was the worst military disaster in recorded galactic history. Admiral N died when his flagship's reactor exploded. He never understood what went wrong. Back on Centrum Prime, High Chancellor watched the reports come in. Each one was worse than the last. His grand fleet, the one that was supposed to restore Council prestige, was destroyed. More than destroyed. Humiliated. He sat in his office and stared at the walls. His entire career had been about Council unity and strength. Now that illusion was shattered. The galaxy would know the truth. The Council was weak. The Council was disorganized. The Council could not protect anyone. His communication panel lit up. It was a vote of no confidence. The Parliament was meeting to remove him from office. Turned off the panel. It did not matter anymore. The news spread across the galaxy in hours. The Battle of Prime shocked everyone. Species that had felt safe under Council protection now realized they were defenseless. Panic spread through Council space. Refugee ships launched by the millions. Some species tried to negotiate secret peace deals with the others began building their own military forces. abandoning any pretense of council unity. Warlord On of the Empire watched the council fleet's survivors limp away. He felt satisfaction. These species had grown soft during their long peace. They had forgotten that the galaxy was not a safe place. Power belonged to those willing to use it. He gave his orders. The fleets would advance. They would take council territory system by system. They would enslave the weak and destroy the resistant. The council had shown they could not stop him. On Nu, Governor Minsuk coordinated evacuation efforts as refugees flooded into human space. They came by the tens of thousands every day. Most were injured. All were terrified. They told stories of attacks, of council forces that could not protect them, of chaos spreading across the galaxy. Medical Director Ho worked 18-hour days treating the wounded. He had never seen anything like this. Entire families displaced, children who watched their parents die, people who lost everything, and they kept coming. Among the refugees was Milzox, the former trade coordinator. He had barely escaped Centrum Prime before raiders reached orbit. He requested a meeting with Ambassador Min. Min met him in a simple office. Milzox looked older than he had just months ago. The confidence was gone. The pride was gone. Only exhaustion remained. "You were right," Milzox said simply. "About everything. The council was broken. We were too proud to see it, too proud to admit we needed help. And now," his voice trailed off. "Now the galaxy is paying the price," Min finished. Milzox nodded. "I came to apologize. I should have supported your reforms when I had the chance. I should have listened when you warned us about I was a fool." Min looked at the alien who had once threatened humanity with economic sanctions. He felt no satisfaction in being proven right, only sadness. "Apologies won't bring back the dead," Min said, "but they're a start." On New Earth, Prime Minister Dong faced the hardest decision of his life. Intelligence reports showed they would not stop at council space. Eventually, they would reach human territory. Military Chief Sangwoo estimated that humanity alone could not stop a full assault on the entire galaxy, but humanity working with organized council forces might succeed. The problem was the council was no longer organized. It was barely functioning. Species were abandoning it daily. The government was collapsing, and they were advancing. The Parliament chamber on New Earth was packed. Every representative had shown up for this debate. The question before them was simple but heavy. Should humanity intervene in the galactic crisis? Prime Minister Dong stood at the podium and presented the facts. They have conquered 20 systems in the past month. They show no signs of stopping. Our intelligence indicates they will eventually reach human space. We can wait for them to come to us, or we can act now while we have allies who might fight alongside us. Representative was on his feet immediately. "Allies? What allies? The council species abandoned us. They ignored our warnings. They rejected our help. Now they're suffering the consequences. Why should we rescue them?" "Because innocent people are dying," Representative Mi-sun responded. She stood up and faced directly. "Children are dying. Families are being torn apart. Entire civilizations are being enslaved. Yes, the council leaders were foolish and proud, but should we punish millions of innocent beings for their leaders' mistakes?" "We're not punishing anyone," shot back. "We're simply staying out of their problems. They made it very clear they didn't want our help." Military Chief Sangwoo cleared his throat. "May I present the strategic analysis?" Dong nodded. Sangwoo activated the holographic display. A map of the galaxy appeared, showing territory expanding like a red stain. "They are not just raiders anymore," Sangwoo explained. "They're building an empire. At their current rate of expansion, they'll reach the outer human colonies in 6 months. If we fight them alone at that point, our chances of victory are less than 40%. However, if we act now with coordinated support from council species, our chances rise above 70%. "Coordinated," laughed bitterly. "Did you watch the Battle of Prime? Those species couldn't coordinate a lunch order, let alone a military campaign. They couldn't coordinate under council leadership, Sangwoo agreed, but they might coordinate under human command. The chamber erupted in discussion. Foreign Minister waited for the noise to die down, then spoke. We have to be realistic. If we intervene, we're committing to a long campaign. Thousands of our people will die. Our economy will strain under military spending. And after we win, if we win, those same council species might resent us for saving them. We saw how they treated us before. Will they be any better after? It was a fair question. No one had a good answer. Dong looked around the chamber. This debate could continue for weeks, but people are dying right now. I'm calling for a public referendum. Let every human citizen vote on this question. Should we intervene or stay neutral? We'll abide by whatever the majority decides. The referendum was announced the next day. Every human world and station prepared for the vote. The debate consumed humanity. Families argued over dinner. Friends stopped speaking. Communities split along fault lines of ideology and experience. On New, Administrator Sung watched refugees arrive every day. She saw their faces. She heard their stories. When asked how she would vote, she answered simply, "I'll vote to help, because these people came to us for safety, and safety means stopping the threat, not just hiding from it." On the research station New, Scientist One had different thoughts. She had spent years working with council scientists who took credit for her work. Part of her wanted to say no, let them handle their own problems. But then she thought about her colleague who had helped her pack when humanity left. Was he still alive? Was he safe? Did he deserve to suffer because his government was incompetent? Captain Min didn't wait for the vote. She disobeyed direct orders and engaged a raiding party that was attacking a colony ship. The Defiant Dawn fought 3 cruisers and destroyed them all. She saved 8,000 refugees. When she reported what she had done, she expected court-martial. Instead, she received thousands of messages from human civilians. Most supported her actions. Many shared their own stories of wanting to help. Her defiance became a symbol for those who believed humanity had a moral duty to act. More humans began taking individual action. Dr. One organized a medical mission to a plague-stricken world. Engineer So Young led volunteers to repair critical infrastructure on a failing refugee station. Across human space, people were already making their choice even before the official vote. Dong saw the reports. He understood what was happening. Humans were not built to stand by and watch suffering when they had the power to stop it. It was not logical. It was not strategic. It was simply human nature. The debate raged for 3 weeks. Every news channel covered it. Political commentators argued constantly. Social media exploded with passionate opinions from every angle. Those who voted no argued that humanity had already paid enough. They had given the council 200 years. They had lost people trying to help an ungrateful galaxy. They had been insulted and dismissed. Why sacrifice more? Those who voted yes argued that helping others was not about gratitude or recognition. It was about doing what was right. Innocent people needed help. Humanity had the ability to provide that help. Therefore, humanity should act. The vote came. Across all human worlds, the citizens made their choice. When the results were counted, 62% voted to intervene. Dong addressed the nation. He stood before cameras and spoke to billions of humans. You have spoken. Democracy has decided. Humanity will intervene in the galactic crisis. But we will not do so as servants returning to the council. We will act as free and independent allies. Any species that wishes to coordinate with human forces is welcome, but we will never again submit to council bureaucracy. He paused and looked directly into the camera. To those who voted no, I understand your feelings. You are not wrong to feel angry or betrayed, but the majority has spoken, and in a democracy, we follow the majority while respecting the minority. To those who voted yes, know that this will be hard. People we love will die. Our economy will suffer. Victory is not guaranteed, but we move forward together because that is what we do. The announcement reached Council space quickly. The reaction was mixed. Some species felt relief and hope. Others felt shame and resentment. A few species refused to work with humanity out of pride, but many more were desperate enough to accept help from anywhere. Interim Administrator Axe, who had replaced, made a public broadcast. He stood in the ruins of the council chamber, damaged by a raid that had nearly reached Centrum Prime. "I speak for the Galactic Council," Axe said. His voice was humble, not proud like had been. "We were wrong. Ambassador Min tried to warn us. Humanity tried to help us. We rejected that help because of pride, because of bureaucracy, because we believed we knew better. We were wrong about everything." He looked directly at the camera. "Humanity is not obligated to help us. We understand that, but we ask anyway, not as a demand, not as an order, but as one desperate people asking another. Please help us. Please help the innocent beings caught in this chaos. We will accept any conditions. We will follow human command. We will do whatever it takes. Please." It was the most honest speech ever delivered from the council chamber. Axe did not try to save face. He did not make excuses. He simply admitted failure and asked for help. The speech was broadcast across human space. Public opinion polls showed it moved some people who had voted no. They appreciated the honesty. They recognized the humility. It did not change the vote result, but it changed the tone. Ambassador Min watched the speech in his office. He felt no joy in seeing the council humbled. He felt only sadness that it had taken so much death to reach this point. Military Chief Sangwoo began organizing the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. 2,000 warships with support vessels, medical ships, and reconstruction teams. The mission was clear: drive back stabilize the galaxy, then return home. Admiral Sung Min took command of the fleet. He was a veteran of multiple conflicts, calm under pressure, respected by everyone who served with him. He spent weeks reviewing intelligence, planning operations, identifying targets. Captain Min, despite her earlier disobedience, was promoted and given command of tactical operations. Her skill was too valuable to waste. Commander Wu, the officer who had been forced to wait while 15,000 people died, led the strike wings. His determination to never let that happen again made him fierce. Haewon, the tactical analyst, was assigned to coordinate overall fleet strategy. At 26 years old, she was young for such responsibility, but her brilliance was undeniable. She had predicted the ambush at Prime. Maybe she could predict their next moves too. The fleet prepared to launch. Across human space, families said goodbye to loved ones. Some goodbyes were permanent. Everyone knew not all of them would come home. But they went anyway, because the vote had been taken, because the decision was made, because they were human, and humans help others even when it is hard, even when it is dangerous, even when those being helped do not deserve it. The fleet departed human space and headed for Council territory. The counteroffensive was about to begin. The human fleet arrived at the system like a surgical blade, precise and deadly. This was no parade formation like the Council had used. Every ship knew exactly where to be. Every commander understood the battle plan. When Admiral Sungmin gave orders, those orders were clear and followed immediately. They had 40 ships occupying Haven, a colony world they had conquered 3 weeks earlier. They had enslaved the population and were stripping the planet of resources. They did not expect a fight. The Council had proven to be no threat. But this was not the Council. The human fleet jumped in at multiple points simultaneously. They found themselves surrounded before they understood what was happening. Min's tactical group used coordinated micro-jumps, appearing and disappearing, striking from unexpected angles. Wu's strike wings deployed drone swarms that overwhelmed point defense systems. Haewon coordinated everything from the command ship, moving pieces on a 3-dimensional chessboard. They tried to respond, but their tactics were designed to fight disorganized enemies. The humans were not disorganized. When ships moved to engage one group, another group hit them from behind. When they tried to concentrate their forces, the humans scattered and regrouped faster than they could follow. 6 hours after the battle started, 40 ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet lost 2 destroyers. It was not a victory, it was a statement. Human Marines landed on Haven and moved through the slave camps with practiced efficiency. They were not brutal. They were not cruel. They simply freed people, provided medical care, and established order. Within 2 days, the colony was stable. Within a week, food and supplies were flowing. Within 2 weeks, people were beginning to rebuild their lives. Word of the victory spread fast. Across council space, beings trapped under occupation dared to hope. Some council species began organizing their own forces to join humanity. They were first, humiliated by their earlier defeat and eager to redeem themselves. Others followed. Foreign ministers set up coordination meetings with council species willing to work under human command. It was delicate work. Many species still had pride. Some resented taking orders from humans. Others worried about looking weak. Lieutenant Wu worked as liaison officer, integrating non-human ships into the fleet. He had to deal with different technologies, different command structures, different cultural approaches to warfare. A captain would question orders to understand the reasoning behind them, which culture considered proper respect for authority. A commander would follow orders without question, which culture considered proper discipline. Wu had to understand each species and work with their nature, not against it. Slowly, a true coalition formed. Not like the Council's forced unity, but genuine cooperation based on mutual respect and clear goals. The human commanders focused on results, not politics. They assigned roles based on capability, not bureaucratic rank. Decisions were made quickly. When something didn't work, they adapted immediately. The contrast with the old Council military was obvious to everyone. Species that had fought each other for generations learned to work together under human coordination. Captains who had never respected alien commanders found themselves trusting human tactical decisions. The coalition was smaller than the old Council fleet, but infinitely more effective. Admiral Sungmin planned the next phase carefully. They had conquered 20 systems. Taking them back one at a time would take years. Instead, Sungmin would strike at the supply lines and command centers, cut off their ability to coordinate, force them to defend everything simultaneously, make them react instead of act. The campaign unfolded over months. The coalition liberated the Dorian system, where men had once watched helplessly. They freed the territories that pirates had controlled. They pushed the back system by system. Each victory was hard-fought. Each victory cost lives. The destroyer spirit of was lost with all hands defending a refugee convoy. The carrier Nu was crippled in a battle that saved 3 colony worlds. Memorial services were held across human space for those who died liberating places they had never seen, for species they had never met. But the momentum was unstoppable. The empire, which had seemed invincible months ago, was contracting. Warlord found himself on the defensive for the first time in his career. His ambush tactics did not work against enemies who predicted them. His brutal efficiency meant nothing against opponents who were more efficient. Intelligence officer Bora and her team worked constantly, gathering information about movements and plans. Every piece of data went to Hayone, who used it to predict strategy. They were skilled warriors, but they followed patterns. Patterns could be analyzed. Patterns could be exploited. The decisive moment came when Sungmin decided to attack Prime itself. It was a bold move, maybe reckless, but Sungmin understood that wars were won by breaking the enemy's will to fight. If Prime fell, the Empire would collapse. The coalition fleet gathered for the assault. This time they faced 500 warships and massive orbital defenses. The odds were brutal, but the coalition had learned to fight together. They trusted their commanders. They trusted their training. They trusted each other. The Battle of Prime was nothing like the Council's disaster months earlier. Wu's strike wings disabled orbital platforms in coordinated attacks that they could not counter. Min's tactical group broke through the defensive lines using maneuvers they had never seen. HFY coordinated fleet movements so precisely that the coalition's smaller numbers never mattered. They were always in the right place at the right time. The battle lasted 14 hours. It was vicious and desperate. The human fleet took heavy casualties. Min's flagship was hit 3 times. Wu's strike wing lost half its ships, but the coalition held together. When ships were damaged, vessels covered them. When human ships ran low on missiles, supply craft risked enemy fire to resupply them. Warlord On's flagship took critical damage. He broadcast one final message to his forces, calling for them to fight to the death. Then his ship exploded. Without their leader, resistance collapsed. Commanders who had followed on out of fear now sued for peace. The terms were harsh but fair. Return all slaves. Pay reparations for damage. Accept arms limitations. Allow peacekeeping forces. The empire was broken as a military threat. It would take generations to rebuild if they ever did. With the defeated, Admiral Sung Min turned to reconstruction, but Prime Minister Dong made something clear. Humanity would not rejoin the old Galactic Council. That system had failed. Returning to it would be foolish. Instead, Ambassador Min proposed a new structure called the Galactic Compact. It was smaller than the Council, more focused, designed for action rather than endless debate. Species joined voluntarily and could leave if the compact did not serve them. Military action required strong majority approval but could be authorized quickly in emergencies. Most importantly, the compact had enforcement power. Members contributed to a joint military force that could respond to threats. Species that violated compact principles faced real consequences. The days of toothless resolutions were over. Many council species joined immediately. They had learned the hard way that security required commitment, not just words. Some species refused out of pride, choosing independence. They joined and accepted that they would not lead militarily. Their humility was noticed and respected. Milzox helped draft the economic agreements. He had learned from the old system's failures. The new trade network had redundancy and flexibility. No single species controlled critical supply lines. Markets were regulated enough to prevent exploitation but free enough to encourage growth. 1 year after the intervention began, the galaxy was at peace. Not perfect peace. Tension still existed. Problems still needed solving, but the chaos had ended. The threat was contained. Trade was flowing. Colonies were rebuilding. People felt safe again. On New Earth, Dawn prepared for retirement. He had led humanity through its most difficult period since the founding. He was tired but satisfied. The galaxy was better than it had been. That was enough. Admiral Sung Min took charge of the compact joint military force. He trained officers from dozens of species, teaching them human tactical doctrine and command structure. The force was small compared to the old council military, but everyone agreed it was far more effective. Quality mattered more than quantity. Captain Min, now Commodore Min, commanded one of the joint task forces. She led a crew of humans and they patrolled the frontier, responding to piracy and preventing conflicts before they escalated. She was proud of her crew. They had learned to work as one. Dr. One led the compact medical research initiative. Without council bureaucracy, her team made breakthrough after breakthrough. Diseases that had plagued multiple species for centuries were being cured. Medical technology that had stalled under council oversight was advancing rapidly. She worked with scientists from many worlds, and now they treated her as an equal partner, not a subordinate. Engineer So Young coordinated reconstruction projects across former territory. Entire worlds had been damaged. Infrastructure needed rebuilding. It was massive work, but she had massive resources. The compact took reconstruction seriously. Stable worlds meant secure peace. Intelligence Officer Bora ran the compact early warning system. She monitored potential threats across the galaxy. When tensions rose between species, she flagged them early. When raiders gathered, she tracked them. The compact could respond before crises became disasters. Prevention was better than cure. Ambassador Min became the first Secretary General of the Galactic Compact. In his inaugural address, he spoke to billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. Humanity did not abandon the galaxy out of spite, he said. We left because the old system was broken and could not be fixed from within. Sometimes institutions fail. Sometimes the only way forward is to build something new. The Council served its purpose for centuries, but that time ended. Now we have the Compact, and the Compact serves us better. He paused and looked across the assembly. The galaxy learned hard lessons this year. Good intentions without action mean nothing. Bureaucracy without efficiency is just delay. Pride without strength is foolishness. And the species you dismiss today might be the ones you need tomorrow. He smiled slightly. Humanity did not ask for gratitude. We help because that is what we do. We could not stand by and watch innocent people suffer when we had the power to stop it. Some call that arrogance. Others call it compassion. We simply call it being human. The assembly applauded. Not everyone. Some species still resented humanity's role. Some still felt embarrassed by their own failures, but most recognized the truth. The galaxy was better because humanity had acted. That evening, Min stood on a balcony overlooking the Compact headquarters. The building was on New Earth, a deliberate choice. The Compact would not be centered on the old Council worlds. This was a fresh start in every way. Foreign Minister joined him. "Do you think it will last?" she asked. Min considered the question. Nothing lasts forever. Someday the Compact will face its own challenges. Maybe it will adapt. Maybe it will fail and something else will replace it. But right now, today, it works. And today is all we have. Nodded, they stood in comfortable silence watching the sun set over New Earth. Across the galaxy, beings of 1,000 species went about their lives in relative peace and safety. Children played, markets bustled, scientists researched, artists created. Life continued. And humanity, the species that had been dismissed as too young, too aggressive, too insignificant, had proven something important. Not through conquest, not through domination, but through the simple act of helping others when help was needed. The galaxy would remember that. And maybe, just maybe, that memory would matter when the next crisis came. Because there would be another crisis eventually. There always was. But now the galaxy knew that action mattered more than words, that efficiency mattered more than bureaucracy, and that sometimes the right thing to do was also the hard thing to do. The human way had changed the galaxy, and the galaxy was better for it.